Everybody, before we get kicked off, I just wanted to mention something to you. Excuse me, first of all, I'm a little hoarse. You'll understand the humor of that in just a moment. Ronald Duncan wrote this, and I thought it was pretty cool. It's called The Horse. Here is nobility without conceit, friendship without envy, beauty without vanity, a willing servant, yet never a slave. The horse. We've got an interesting Michael Shawn's Campfire coming up towards the end of this podcast, and we're going to be talking about wild horses. That and a whole lot more. Let's kick it off.
The following is an A-Team PR production.
Welcome to the Free Range Texan podcast. We're kind of an escape hatch for everyday life. We know today's world has issues. Maybe that's just all the more reason to spend some time. So saddle up with a bunch of Free Range Texans. Here's one now, our host, Michael Shawn.
All right. Look, I've just got one question. Are the donuts here yet? I'm just saying we got a big show to do. Well, check on that, will you? Free Range Texan, episode 64. Continuing our tradition of going somewhere we've never been before. First, I am so pleased to introduce to everyone our brand new friend. Have you ever noticed that there are times when you meet somebody and you visit with someone for the first time, and in no time at all you begin to feel like, well, you're just talking to an old friend. Louise Cappi is one of those people. Of course, she is widely known as a singer, songwriter, and recording artist. But here's the ticket. Meeting her. That's exactly what we're going to do. It is a great experience, and we're anxious to share it with you. Hear me now? Believe me later. She is delightful. Our Chief of Security, Foxy the Wonder Dog, is presently said to be on high alert. That's right. Word on the street is that fresh donuts are being delivered to our studio this morning. Understandably, she's keeping a cautious eye on the front gate. It's a perk. Michael Shawn's Campfire returns. We advise our listeners to perhaps not listen unless you like horses. All of that and more as we kick off episode 64. So, I guess we should just saddle up and get ready to ride. I know what you're thinking. What if? That can be dangerous, you know, thinking, what if? Like, what if you produced your own podcast? Well, now comes the if-onlys. If only you think I had a partner. Someone that listened to you enough to understand what's in your head and maybe even what's in your heart. Then they would understand the look and the feel of your podcast. Partners you could trust to edit exactly what you want in our state-of-the-art digital studio. Complete with your own non-published music and just the right amount of backup production for intros and outros. And we would even use portable microphones to help us make you the center of your podcast content. And you could do this from anywhere in the world. After your final edit of each episode, we would then upload your presentation to every podcast platform in the world through a universal hub that is the world's most successful of its kind. And it can all be simpler than you think. And promoting your podcast is something we would be glad to teach you. In fact, we are the producers of podcasts like The Free Range Texan and a number of others as well. Whether it's corporate or personal, that's what partners are for. I mean, if you're wondering, what if? Just go to freerangetexan.net and then click on the What If You Produced Your Own Podcast banner. You see, it's simpler and costs less than you think. That's freerangetexan.net and look for the What If You Produced Your Own Podcast or A Team PR banner. After all, what if? Let's talk about it. Time now for another segment of the Free Range Talent File. Brought to you by A-Team PR, bringing a host of creative media production and public relations services to our exclusive list of clients. Maybe you could hire the A-Team. And now, here's the next segment of the Free Range Talent File. Well, there is only one way to kick off this segment of the Free Range Talent File. That's with some great music. Jazz from New Orleans with Louise Cappi, taking us all to our happy place on the Free Range Texan podcast.
I was driving down the highway with my baby right beside me. I had the rooftop down. My hair was blowing all around. I had a smile on my face. I was in a happy place. I was walking on the beach with my little dog Pete. Sand between my toes, the smell of sea air in my nose. I had a smile on my face. I was in a happy place. Go to your happy place. What puts a smile on your face? You can get there in your mind, or you can Google it online. Don't put it off any longer. Your days on earth are getting shorter. I was dancing in the rain, watching puddles go down the drain. Then all the clouds passed by. Look, there's a rainbow in the sky. I had a smile on my face. I was in a happy place. Go to your happy place. Put a smile on your face. You can get there in your mind. You can Google it online. Don't put it off any longer. Your days on earth are getting shorter. Go to your happy place. Yeah. Put a smile on your face. You can get there in your mind. You can even Google it online. Don't put it off any longer. Your days on earth are getting shorter. Go to your happy place. Oh, happy place. Put a smile on your face. Go to your happy place. Hell yeah. Go find your happy place. Go find your happy place. Go find your happy place. Happy place. Are you there yet?
And that, of course, is Happy Place. And I'm sure Louise Cappi would say, if you don't have one, you need to get one. And she's in our studio with us. Yeah. And what a delightful thing to have you here, Louise Cappi.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you.
You know, we found you through one of the premier guys that promotes music around the United States and around the world. We got your music and began to listen to it. And I want you to know that it was your music that drew us to get to want to talk to you and get you on the Free Range Texan. You have been doing this for a while, haven't you?
Oh, yeah. My whole life, really. And I'm no spring chicken.
Forgive my ignorance here, but tell us about your dad. Who was he?
My dad, Al Cappi, he was a jazz guitarist. Actually, he did everything, but primarily jazz. And he was very well known in New York, and he toured with a lot of big bands. And he played with NBC Orchestra. And yeah, he had quite a career.
Well, I think you're being modest, and let me tell you why. He was known around the world. People knew him as a jazz guitarist and as a real artist. And the unique thing about that is before the internet.
Yes.
And when the word just got out, that was a big deal in that day.
Yes. Amazing, huh?
Yeah.
Really? Yeah. And today, there was quite a task to be that well known.
Louise, we were reading about you. We try to do a little homework before we get a chance to talk to folks, because many times, like today, I am talking to this artist for the first time, and you and I are done. You've been so kind with me, and we've just been talking a few minutes. But Louise Cappi is an internationally acclaimed New Orleans-based singer, songwriter, recording artist, and entertainer, and she also has been a regular performer in New York City on the New York City music scene. She is well known there. Louise, I thought this was pretty impressive. On your press releases, I've got this quote from Midwest Records, says Louise Cappi has the incandescence and chops to light up the night with her smart original song. Cappi easily hits it out of the park. Then, from Australia, Louise Cappi combines jazz, blues, soul, and funk on the very impressive release. She evokes passion and emotions with her rich and sensitive vocals, the Blues and Roots Music blog, and that's from Australia. And then it goes right on down here, from jazz to blues to soul. You get it all with Louise Cappi. How beautiful this is. And that's from Rootsville, Belgium. All around the world, they know who you are.
Yeah, and that's something.
My goodness.
Well, so, I grew up with jazz mostly. And when I got to New Orleans 20-something years ago, that's what I stuck to, traditional jazz, straight-ahead jazz. But I felt like there was so much more I wanted to do. And I love singing the jazz standards, but after singing them so many times, I felt like I wasn't saying what I want to say. So, I wanted to write. I started writing 8 years ago. And I realized, I can do this. I can write and people listen and they enjoy it. And so I also had, from being in New Orleans, I had a desire to do more blues and fuse that with jazz.
Oh, yeah.
And fuse it with the rock, because I come from, I grew up, in the 70s, 80s, and, enjoying rock and all that too. So, and funk. So we kind of, put it all together when I started writing.
You released a new song in the spring called Hope, is my understanding. Now, you correct me if I'm not correct on this. And now this fall, you're coming out with an album, and that's the title of the album. And that's what everybody's going to want to get. And you are... I guess, have you written everything on that album? Is that entirely Louise Cappi?
Yeah, I wrote everything. Actually, the last song on that album is called Beautiful Dreams, and that my band wrote the music, but everything else I wrote the lyrics and the music. And yeah, I did it during COVID. So I wrote the whole album during COVID lockdown because we couldn't work. Everything was closed. So I had to do something. But I was watching TV and seeing all of this horror, people dying and all this going on and businesses closing. And I thought, how can I help? I'm not a first responder. I'm not a medical person, but I can write, and I love to encourage people. If I could just, before COVID, I was a chaplain for Toro Hospital here in New Orleans. And one of the protocol we had when we would go in to see a patient was to ask them what gives them hope in terms of getting out of the hospital and reclaiming their health and life. And so I thought, well, in response to everything I'm seeing on TV, that's a great question to ask and try to answer. And so there's the song Hope.
I have asked, I don't know how many artists about the backstory on one song or another. That is one of the most beautiful stories that I have heard about a song. It tells me that it's time to play that title track from your new album, Hope. And we'll do that right now, and then we'll be back and talk to Louise some more. But here it is. This is Louise Cappi, ladies and gentlemen, and Hope on the Free Range Texan podcast.
Hope is a song in the night. Hope guides you from the darkness to the light. Fills the heart that longs to be whole. Hope is the anchor of the fear-driven soul. What is hope? It's the strength in your veins. It gives you the courage to try again. What is hope? It's the steel in your spine. It takes you to the finish line. Hope is the antidote. Hope has the power to set the prisoner free. It holds in its pocket the master key. Hope reaches out a helping hand. Hope is the road to the promised land. What is hope?
What is hope?
It's the strength in your veins. It gives you the courage to try again. What is hope?
What is hope?
It's the steel in your spine. It takes you to the finish line. Hope is the antidote. It gives you the courage to try again. What is hope?
What is hope?
It's the steel in your spine. It takes you to the finish line. Hope is the antidote. Try again. What is hope?
What is hope?
It's the steel in your spine. It takes you to the finish line. Hope is the antidote.
And that was Hope. And our special guest is Louise Cappi. She is, at this time of her life, from New Orleans, Louisiana. You realize, Louise, that Louisiana is just like a next-door neighbor for us Texans.
Yes. Hi, neighbor.
I tell you what, I will just go ahead and say right now, particularly after that tune we just listened to, that, folks, if you go to New Orleans, you need to look up.
If they go to my website, louisecappimusic.com, we have listed the places that we are going to be playing coming up.
Louise,
and they can always find it.
And one shameless plug after another. Folks, if you will go to freerangetexan.net and click on the blog, we're going to have an article about Louise and a number of pictures that I think you will enjoy. And if we can wrangle it, I believe one of Louise's videos of late, we're going to have that on that blog article and a direct link to this podcast as well. So also, the reason why that's important at this stage is that you can go to her website that will be listed there, and you can find out where she's at, what she's doing, and more importantly, maybe download the new album.
Yes. Please.
Okay. We're all in agreement on that. Great.
Yeah.
Louise,
Amen.
you and I were talking about something during the break a while ago that I just thought was so touching. You were affected by this whole worldwide pandemic, and you saw a lot of things. You were literally on the front lines, working with the medical care facility and so on and so forth. Will you tell us a little bit about that and how it all gets around to being involved with your new album?
Well, I have a degree in theology, and I became a chaplain. A chaplain is a minister to lay people, and I started to work at Toro Hospital here in New Orleans as a chaplain. And one of the protocols when you go in for your training, because you just don't let you walk in anybody's room and start yapping, but there is a protocol and quite a lot of training, actually. But one of the things I had remembered was one of the questions to ask the patients was, what gives you hope about in terms of getting well, getting out of the hospital? And we would ask that question to people, and we had all kinds of, I want to see my grandchildren, I want to be able to live another few years, whatever it was. So then when I went and wrote my song and I saw all this stuff on TV going on, suffering and loss of life and jobs, I decided to use one of those, I'd use that question in order to write the song, what gives people hope? And I started to answer that question in my song, and it went from there. But that's what inspired that song in particular, was that question, hope, from being a chaplain.
Well, and you can come in my room and start yapping anytime you want.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, man. There again, that is a beautiful story. I think your entire album is probably inspiring, and I've only heard 3 cuts at this point, but we will definitely need to get it and listen to the rest of it. And, you are a great artist.
Oh, thank you.
And I want you to be able to play regularly, so come spend an evening with you.
Oh, that would be great. Yeah. Well, yes, if they want to find me, I just came off. Last night I just got back from New York. We did a a show up there at the Triad Theater in New York City. And so now I'm back in town and we're regrouping and doing a few things. But they can always find me. Of course, they can hear my music on YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, all these different places. You can find it and download it. And if they ever want to come to town, New Orleans is a great city, fun, and want to find me, go to the website, and we have listed the gigs and shows that are coming up.
Well, there it is, folks. We're all invited to stay at Louise's place. And
Wait a minute now. Wait a minute. Hey.
We know each other well, but not that well. Okay. Oh, you know what? Thank you. You know, you just said something. Yeah, well, you just got back from New York last night. You know, a lot of people might still be a little peaked by this time after out doing a gig like that. But I am so glad that you spent time here on the Free Range Texan and let us bug you a little bit. I appreciate that.
No. And Mike, I want to say, Michael, you know, I truly, especially you're easy to talk to. And personally, I never met a stranger. But that's just me. And unless they do something really nasty,
yeah.
I make friends for life. So I feel like I know you already. You sound like a beautiful soul.
Well, you're very kind. I appreciate it. The jury might still be out on that, but I appreciate that. I tell you what, let's do right now, Louise. First of all, we want to make sure you know we would love to have you back on our podcast, and I look forward to when that happens. And the other thing is this. You've got this song, Keep the Dream Alive. We really like it around here. Folks been coming in the studio and listening to it. And with your permission, we would like to share that with our audience now. And again, thank you so much, Louise Cappi, for being a new friend here on the Free Range Texan.
Thank you so much, Michael. It's been my pleasure. It's been a blast.
So here it is. Keep the Dream Alive. Louise Cappi on the Free Range Texan podcast.
I know you're hurt and in pain, scared to get up and try again. You had a hard loss, but it's time to put down that cross. You had a hard loss, but it's time to put down that cross. Wipe off those tears and face down your fears. You can make a new start, 'cause you're strong and so smart. Yes, you're strong and so smart. Keep that dream alive.
Gotta keep it alive.
Don't be afraid to try.
Gotta keep it alive.
You can fly like an eagle to the sky.
Gotta keep it alive.
You can fly like an eagle to the sky. I won't quit until I'm dead. Well, I see you're still breathing, so keep on moving. I'm moving ahead. Keep on breathing and moving ahead. Yeah, keep that dream alive.
Gotta keep it alive.
Don't be afraid to try.
Gotta keep it alive.
Like an eagle to the sky.
Keep it
Oh,
alive.
you can fly. Yeah, like an eagle to the sky. Oh, keep that dream alive.
Gotta keep it alive.
Don't be afraid to try.
Gotta keep it
You
alive.
can fly like an eagle to the sky.
Gotta keep it alive.
Fly like an eagle to the sky.
You've been listening to the Free Range Talent File. If you'd like more information about our guest, just go to our website at freerangetexan.net. Also, submissions to be interviewed on the Free Range Talent File should be sent to our website at freerangetexan.net. You want to make a podcast? What if there was a place where it all could be simple? We got a team that comes alongside and listens to you. We know what you have to share is important, and we can make it easy. Go ahead, let A-Team PR share our polish and rich sound with you. Find out how smooth it can all be. So, you want to make a podcast from anywhere in the world? Go to freerangetexan.net and click on the A-Team PR banner and arrange to speak with one of our producers that specialize in making it all easy. Click on A-Team PR on freerangetexan.net. You're listening to the best little podcast in Texas, the Free Range Texan. Howdy, I'm Michael Shawn. Our campfire story is inspired by W.S. Strong. This is a story about a 23-year-old young fella riding a horse south of Corpus Christi in a region that would later be called the King Ranch. The vast stretch of sandy prairie was then called the Wild Horse Desert. In some ways, it was a mystical place. Visitors could see horse tracks everywhere, but at the same time, there was no sign of people. There were plenty of well-worn trails, but the population was only four-legged. In 1845, folks reckoned that these horses were descendants of those that arrived with the explorer known as Cortez more than 3 centuries earlier. He had come to conquer the Aztecs. Some of his horses escaped, migrated north, and bred like rabbits. Our young man, a graduate of West Point, now a second lieutenant, rode with a regiment of soldiers under the command of General Zachary Taylor. They were under orders to establish Fort Texas on the Rio Grande and enforce the river as the southern border of the United States. Fort Fort Texas would shortly become Fort Brown, the fort which Brownsville would take its name. The young lieutenant who had excelled as a horseman at West Point was so impressed with the seemingly endless herds of wild horses in South Texas that he wrote in his journal, "A few days out from Corpus Christi, an immense herd of wild horses that ranged at the same time from the Nueces to the Rio Grande was in front of us. I rode out a ways to see the extent of the herd. The country was rolling prairie from higher ground as far as the eye could see to the right or to the left. The herd extended equally. There was no estimating the number of horses in it. I doubt that they could have all been corralled in the state of Rhode Island or Delaware at one time. If they had been, they would have been so thick that the pasture would give out after the first day." Taylor had no idea that his visit to the Wild Horse Desert would lead him to victories in the Mexican-American War. He would also later become the 12th President of the United States. And Taylor's dashing second lieutenant also ascended to the presidency 20 years after him. Surveying the astounding scene of wild Mustangs grazing by the thousands, he would ultimately lead Union forces to victory in the Civil War and become the youngest president of the United States. His name was Ulysses S. Grant. You see, for hundreds of years, horses have at one time or another inspired greatness all around the world. And evidence of their great herds could still be found in the Big Bend wilderness of Texas as late as the 1970s. This part of this story actually happened to me. In 1974, I was riding with 8 other riders on off-road motorcycles in the Big Bend wilderness. Our base camp was at the old silver mining ghost town of Terlingua. At that time, its official population was 12, but you'd be fortunate to find any 2 or 3 of them in one place. At that time, the deserts were wild and open. We would ride from early morning till late evening, and we would sight off mountain peaks so that we would hopefully not get lost. In mid-afternoon, under the hot burning desert sun, we were crossing the desert from one valley to the next, when suddenly we came over the top of a hill, and there they were. I could estimate 60 or 70 beautiful and majestic horses, moving slowly in an easterly direction, probably looking for water. It was clear that they were wild. I knew that we were far off the beaten path, and I was probably getting to see something that very few outsiders would have ever gotten to see. The picture in my mind of that afternoon and those wild and free animals is clear and vivid, as if it had only happened yesterday. I had grown up around horses, and immediately I felt the kinship, and at the same time wondered how long they would be allowed to exist and roam freely. And at the time of this campfire storytelling, that was almost 50 years ago. And I've known from my own investigations that for the last 30-plus years, they are no longer there. But like so many others born and raised in this country, I have always learned and appreciated the amazing equine legacy. From the early explorers to the American Indians like the Apache, Comanche, Sioux, and the Cheyenne, to the American cowboys and settlers, the foundation of the discovering America was mostly written down from horseback. Their story is remarkable, and anyone who rides will tell you there is a reason that the term has been coined. Horse sense. It's just another tale from our campfire. Horses. I'm Michael Shawn. Adios, my friends. Hey everyone, we want to remind you that the Free Range Texan podcast is made possible by the folks at A-Team PR. It is their production studio A where our podcast originates. From support to your new podcast idea to a full line of public relations services, you can find out more about A-Team PR by visiting their website. Just go to freerangetexan.net and click on the A-Team PR banner. Well, another Free Range Texan episode is pulling up stakes. But before we roll out of here, let's just take a moment and say thanks to our new friend, bringing her amazing and delightful talent to our latest Free Range Talent File. Louise Cappi, you are the bee's knees, and always welcome here. As always, it's a great help to the continuation of our podcast if those of you who have not subscribed would. We would greatly appreciate it. Our Free Range Texan podcast returns on the evening of the first day of each month, and our diligent production crew is already building our next little escape for all of us. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Thank you all for listening. So, Foxy, get in the pickup. Take 'em home, sweetie pie.
Thank y'all for listening to the Free Range Texan podcast, produced at A-Team PR Studios, out yonder in West Texas, with our host, who's been voted the hardest working man in podcasting, Michael Shawn. Feedback or submissions to our program can be submitted on our website, freerangetexan.net. That's freerangetexan.net. This is Sweetie Pie, on behalf of Michael Shawn and the crew here in Studio A, where we're all looking forward to spending time with you on our next episode of the Free Range Texan podcast. Y'all come back now, you hear?
An A-Team PR production. End transmission.
That's all. Can we go now, Dad?